Hello, all, and welcome to the newest episode of the Noobs and Knockouts podcast. I'm Austin. I'm a knockout. I've watched a lot of wrestling.
I'm David. I'm a noob. I haven't watched all that much wrestling. But you can bet your bottom dollar I'm gonna be watching more today.
Since you're making it a thing now to try to tie us into the episode, I wasn't sure how you were going to do it. Because today is a bit of a special episode in that, as a little bit of a behind-the-scenes kind of a thing, is that we up to this point have only done regular free episodes of TV on this podcast. And the reason for that is because me and David both have regular jobs that do not allow us to have significantly long amount of times to record these things.
Yeah, no. As far as it would be to have like full-on recording days.
Yeah, but like pay-per-views are like 3 hours long, so that's not a feasible option. But for this episode, I felt like this pay-per-view, it is literally impossible to do this storyline any justice if I didn't cover this pay-per-view especially. Today we are watching, this is a follow-up for our continuing Summer of Punk storyline, which started in episode 6, breaking the fourth wall for fun and profit. I need to remember to do these plugs at the beginning.
Yes.
And episode 12, intense contract negotiations. This is our third episode of this 5-episode arc that I've planned, and we are watching Money in the Bank 2011.
Yes! Oh, I'm so excited. Because one, I'm obsessed with Summer of Punk. And second of all, I've been waiting to watch a Money in the Bank match, and I'm so excited.
Yeah, so I feel like let's go ahead and throw out, I guess, for the intro here, we can talk a little bit about kind of a reminder of say what we're going to watch on this episode. Because to answer the question of, well, you're doing a pay-per-view now, so you're going to watch all 3 hours? The answer is no. We have cut out, there are 6 matches on this show. We are only going to watch 4 of them. Basically, the 4 matches that are of the storylines that we have been following in the last 2 episodes. The story that we're going to skip is the Smackdown Money in the Bank ladder match. At this point in time, they were doing one on Smackdown and one on Raw. We're not going to watch the Smackdown one because we haven't been watching Smackdown. And we are not going to watch Christian versus Randy Orton for the World Heavyweight Championship. Now,
fair enough.
Having seen this pay-per-view in its entirety before, it's a really good match. And honestly, if I was ever willing to come back to this era in 2011, it would probably be for either to do the Hall of Pain, Mark Henry's Hall of Pain, more in depth, or doing the storyline Christian versus Randy Orton, because I think both of them are really good storylines that they had on SmackDown during this time. But that's not what this podcast. That's not the range of what we've been doing so far, so it's not worth watching this match.
But also, give me all of the Mark Henry, please.
So, what we will be watching is the Divas Championship match between Kelly and Brie Bella. I know, but like...
I know.
We've had to sit through it for 2 weeks on this podcast. It feels like we might as well watch the pay-per-view match.
Get it over with, yeah.
Yeah, I guess to sum up, it's very Divas era kind of bland, where Kelly is a lovable baby face who is just hot, and the Bellas are mean girls because that's the only way they know how to write heel female characters at this point. They did get weird about it and got into like calling Kelly anorexic for a hot second there.
Jerry Lawler being, of course, especially weird about it.
Yeah. So there's that. Big Show versus Mark Henry. It's the kind of storyline that is technically supposed to be on SmackDown, in that both of them are considered SmackDown wrestlers, but because of the way that WWE was doing programming in 2011, it's a storyline that kind of bled through to Monday Night Raw too. So I figured, why not? Let's go for it.
Yeah.
And in that match, it's pretty much, big dudes, button head, trying to be the biggest and strongest dude.
Honestly, I enjoy that format a lot more than I ever anticipated I would. So I'm all here for it. Absolutely, please, those big dudes just going at it. I love it.
Absolutely. And then the two marquee matches, the first being the Monday Night Raw Money in the Bank ladder match. And that match has in it, I'm looking this up again right now, but I'll see if I can try to remember how much of it I can remember. It's Alberto Del Rio, Rey Mysterio, R-Truth, Evan Bourne, Jack Swagger, Kofi Kingston, The Miz, and Alex Riley. And
man.
There's been a lot of interpersonal dynamics at play in the match. Watch our prior 2 episodes in this storyline for more details.
Oh, yeah.
But, at the end of the day, what this match is really about is a bunch of dudes trying to climb a ladder to get a briefcase that lets them have a world championship, a WWE championship match at the time of their choosing.
Mm-hmm.
The end of the day, that's what it's all really about.
It's just all the rest is filler. We just want to see some muscle dudes climb ladders. That's all I've signed up for.
Yeah, it's going to be I guarantee it's going to be very fun and very chaotic.
Yes.
But then of course the main event, CM Punk versus John Cena for the WWE Championship. It not a whole lot has to be said as a reminder. Is what happened here is that CM Punk, in storyline and in real life, was at the end of his contract with WWE and very seriously considered not re-signing. It's not much of a long-term spoiler to say that, he did, considering we've already watched an episode in 2012 when he's there.
Oh, yeah.
It's not really a spoiler to say that he doesn't end up not re-signing. But and on his way out, he starts this whole storyline where he's really leaning on and breaking the fourth wall in a way that is very never. I don't want to say never before seen, but very rarely seen on WWE television.
Yeah,
with the pipe bomb promo, and then even the stuff he was talking about in our last episode when he was the contract negotiations with Vince McMahon and John Cena.
Yeah, I know. The amount of creative freedom they gave Punk on these scripts just blows my mind, and I am absolutely in love with it. It just feels so fresh and so distinct from anything else we've watched. I'm just in for the ride at this point. He's done such a good job with it.
Mm-hmm. And, on the flip side, Vince McMahon is kind of like shit, CM Punk can't be the WWE champion after he's embarrassed me this much. That ain't gonna happen. And
that ain't gonna fly.
And so he's also laid down the law on John Cena, who fought to let CM Punk stay in the match, despite him making fun of Vince McMahon so much. Freedom of speech, rah, whatever. Point being is Vince McMahon was like, fine, if you lose, then you're fired, Cena.
I mean, yeah, it's Vince McMahon being Vince McMahon about it, and John Cena being John Cena about it, and it makes for some great character dynamics. And yes, please, just give it to me. Inject directly into my veins.
And of course, the only other, the big factor being also the big kind of what makes this moment even more climactic is that it is taking place in CM Punk's hometown of Chicago, Illinois. And trust me, that's going to play into how the crowd reacts to this match.
I am looking forward. You know what? Well deserved. I can't wait for Punk to get his freaking due.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess he already kind of has, but even more so with the home court advantage. Yes, I'm rooting for him.
And so, yeah, I think that because our last episode was the last episode before Money in the Bank, there's not really anything worth to cover in terms of what's been going on in the in-between, because there is nothing. So that's kind of a pretty basic plot breakdown of where we're at. Again, if you would like to know more, you can pause this episode and go watch our last 2 episodes about this to get a more robust and full explanation of where everything is storyline-wise, and then come on back.
Yes, please. Watch our shit.
Yes, watch all of it. So, with that having been said, we're going to go ahead and watch the episode and see you guys in our back half. And we are back. We have just finished watching most of Money in the Bank 2011.
Holy shit. Oh my god, that was exhilarating. Oh, that was good.
Yeah, I don't really think I could open any better. Say it was really good.
It was that. I mean, that was phenomenal. It's not. It was. I mean, the main event is obviously what really makes it, but overall, fantastic time. I kind of wanted this week save the main event to last because there's just so much to kind of like.
Okay, let's just go in order then.
Yeah, let's go in order. I mean,
All right,
starting off with Divas, Kelly versus Brie Bella. Yeah, that was a thing.
it
Uh,
happened. My running gag of keeping track of how long these matches go is going to be skipped this week because it lasted like almost 5 minutes and it doesn't feel
which is,
taking a crack
I
about.
just want to point out, still nothing in comparison to the rest of the matches,
No,
but
easily the shortest match on the show.
yeah, no. I mean, the big highlights were Kelly had her serious business face on. The Bella Twins, for some reason, didn't pull their weird like twin switch off shenanigans. Even though
Yeah,
this would be a
seems
perfect
like
time for them to do so.
the best time to do that, but no, not gonna.
No, they don't care. They just kind of looked mad at the end. They were even kind of like beating up on each other, like pissed that I and the crowd was like eerily silent for a majority of that match.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't look good, especially after watching the main event when the crowd was really into it. This
I
is
know
about
they
the opposite of that.
the way I likened it to, it's like one of those videos of like Disneyland without the music. It's just
Mhm.
it's there was this eerie underlying silence to it, this bizarre quietude that just felt viscerally incorrect when watching something like this.
Just
And
keep that.
it is just kind of like depressing that it's, of course, it's because it's the Divas and nobody gives a shit.
Yeah. We should keep that in mind for when we do a pandemic era wrestling show that has the
Oh,
same problem.
I've seen well, okay, oh yeah, no, I thought you were gonna say like pandemic era wrestling that has like good lady wrestlers because
No,
I've seen
I was,
clips of like some of the contemporary stuff and the crowd responds to them.
yeah,
It's
no,
just,
I was referring to the eerie silence part.
I mean, we already kind of had that with the Brody Lee episode of just like
Mm,
early on. That was so bizarre, and I did not like that.
that's
It
true.
felt, it was, no pun intended. It was rather disquieting.
Hey,
Uh, but yeah, so that, I mean, that was a thing. Kelly won. Good guy
woo,
prevails. Nice
woo,
black and
woo.
white easy. Woo. There was much rejoicing. Yay.
Yeah. I guess I'll save my pick talks about McMahon when we get to the main event stuff, but because there's stuff throughout the night with him, but that's not
Yeah.
really the main event. Then the next thing would be Big Show and Mark Henry.
Oh my god. I mean, I remarked in the first half the brutalism fights like these. I just eat them up. It's so satisfying in a way to see these two behemoths just kind of clash into each other so um so powerfully. The way the way they interact, they, I mean, first of all, Mark Henry is terrifying. Um he's always been kind of this very um clearly single-mindedly driven fighter of just, I want to destroy you. But there was an extra primality to it this time around that was just, he was desperate, he was hungry, he just wanted to finally end this. And Big Show was just trying to stand up for himself. Um,
It's weird to see like the Big Show being his size, kind of being like the almost the underdog baby face trying to fight back, but
yeah,
that's the position Mark Henry puts him in.
when you're able to make the Big Show look like that much of a bitch, like that, you're displaying something really intimidating, really powerful, and quite frankly scary as hell. Um, and I mean, it was just it's just magnificent to watch. I wish I could see a match like that live, where everything just, the ground shakes as they bump into each other. The ring ripples under their pinfalls. It's beautiful in its brutality. I just love watching matches like that.
Oh yeah, big guy matches when done really well. When you have really good. The thing about big man matches is also the fact that like half of guys who are the size of Big Show and Mark Henry also kind of suck. but like when they're really good, when you get really good wrestlers their size in the ring together, it's awesome.
They're so insanely talented. I am in awe watching them do whatever they do. And like I said, I would like just crumple into a puddle if I ever like met Mark Henry in person. That motherfucker glared down at me. I even there was this great moment when he was entering the ring of like someone like patting him on the back as he passed the crowd. You turn around and like fucking like thrust at them. Just like it's like, what do you want? And it was, and they jumped because it I can imagine that's legitimately terrifying. This giant
So
dude
scary.
with just this low down gaze who's coming in there for one purpose, and that purpose is destroy. Oh my Christ, was that cool to watch. And all right, this is time number one. I knew it was going to come to me saying this at some point tonight. So this is instance number one of me hugely gratifying all of Austin's behind the scenes effort tonight. But what made it especially satisfying to watch was having all the context leading up to this, knowing the background. Yeah, no, seeing their feud up to this point, snippets of it relatively, but seeing that these two men were poised for this giant climactic battle, and also knowing just how dominant relatively Mark Henry's been for a majority of this feud. It was just this slow burn kind of knowing, right, that Big Show was going to get put away because Mark Henry's just driven to pulverize this man.
Yeah, this was kind of one of our first experience with like the WWE pay-per-view video packages, which is almost like one of the most undisputedly good things WWE does ever.
Those were awesome.
Like,
oh my God.
Like even in like more modern times where the fans are kind of down on WWE or they think a storyline is bad, like you get a WWE video package on there and it's going to look like the coolest shit ever.
Oh my God. The editing is phenomenal. The way they filter all the footage, to single out colors and kind of add a gritty graininess to the, over the top, whatever. The sound design on them, and just the general epic scale they present is just hugely entertaining on their own. A great recap for practical reasons, and a kind of a great payoff if you have seen these clips before, of just kind of flashing back to every little highlight leading up to this point, knowing that you're about to hit a fantastic climax of whatever storyline that this is coming to a head in the moment.
Absolutely. But Mark Henry and Big Show it's a very short match. It only goes about 6 minutes. But, they really pack it in, and it's very entertaining.
It's again, just because you know that these displays of brute strength are real. Everything here is visceral and brutal. And each of them are also giant dudes who can take it. But then, even then, they find a way to make sure that feeling doesn't get stale. Because, they're going to punch each other back and forth, and they're going to slam into each other. But ultimately, these are big boys. They can handle shit like that. But they did this really smart thing of throughout the match kind of setting up, reminding us that one of Big Show's legs is a little fucked up. And then at the very end, we see Mark Henry basically splint his leg in the throes of a folding chair and jump off the top rope onto it to supposedly break Big Show's ankle or whatever. And that is an incredible effect that you look at that and you're like, how in the world can they fake that? That's just fucked. That's something that you can't you're gonna take some pain and damage for.
And it's so brutal, and it's after the match too. He didn't have to do that. Mark Henry already won. Let's go.
I mean, we're driving home how bloodthirsty he is, right?
Yeah, and as I told David, he double tapped in that. Big Show actually kicked out of the World's Strongest Slam the first time through. which is a bit of a shocking moment in its own right. So this time, Mark Henry, when he hits the second one, then he like does the big old like splash on Big Show twice after that to make sure Big Show stayed down. And then he grabbed a chair and snapped his ankle with it.
Which again is just the little bit of subversion there went a long way, because you're already watching a brutal match, but there's kind of like this safety net in the back of your mind of kind of understanding the physical reality of how this is probably playing out for the two of them IRL. But that final moment is so deeply brutal and so violent, and as you said, gratuitous and unnecessary. It just sets you on edge and kind of flips things upside down at the last second to magnificent effect, to the point where I'm still puzzling over how the hell they pulled that off without like actually permanently like fucking up Big Show's leg. And
I actually don't know how they do that. Like that's the kind of thing that obviously you throw out there every once in a while as like a gratuitous, violent visual moment. But I do not know how they fake those. Like
it's a fantastic magic trick in a way.
Oh yeah.
And again, just adds such great effect to an already super entertaining match. Oh my god, I just can't get enough of these two guys. It's really funny because like I think of wrestlers like these whose whole shtick is just like blind savage brutality, and it's like on the surface level it feels unappealing to me because I want more finesse, I want more style, whatever. But kind of taking it in for the physical feats that they are, and kind of realizing all of the things these dudes are capable of is makes it so cool to watch. And I just loved every second of that match as much as I thought I would. Long live the world's strongest heel. Holy shit.
After that, we get kind of the polar opposite to Big Show and Mark Henry in the Raw Money in the Bank ladder match.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. Well, okay. Opposite in that, like, they're smaller dudes and there's a lot more like finesse and style and clever trickery or what have you. But the cool thing was that brutalism was still there. But oh my god, that ladder match!
They literally start the match with everyone wielding the ladder as a weapon.
Yeah, literally. And the first thing that happens is everybody gangs up on Alberto Del Rio, and he just gets slammed between like 7 other ladders. It was insane, and thrown out of the ring. God, there's so much to cover. Like, I don't even know if I can talk on a whole lot of specifics because there's just so much that happened in that match.
It's hard because it's. I think it's a good intro to the Money in the Bank ladder match concept.
Oh, that was phenomenal. That was such a good. I mean, okay, because the kind of two big themes of this match when it comes to analyzing it are, one, you have all the brilliant instances of setup and payoff in this match. These very physical moments where a ladder gets set up a certain way, or somebody's like approaching the ring, or somebody's like about to try out a new tactic, and another person's like trying to counter it. And the way that they take each setup and use it in each a couple different ways, like, a ladder that I think Kofi, I can't remember. No, it was R-Truth. R-Truth set like a ladder in like a corner of the ring. And it was used to like ram people into it. It was used to trap people under it. I'm pretty sure Rey Mysterio like jumped between like the crack between the ladder and the actual like corner of the ring at one point. There was just so much.
Yeah, that was actually a really cool moment. And then the way it kind of like leads you, it twists and turns. It's like, okay, so R-Truth sets up the ladder. And then he tries to throw Rey Mysterio into it. But Rey Mysterio is able to like duck under it, slide his way under it. So it feels like it's going to be like, Ray, the baby faces as survived the trick, and he's going to turn the tables on the heel, and he tries, but then R-Truth is able to recover and like push the ladder into Ray's ribs.
Yeah. Or we have
it all happens like snap, snap, snap. It's not a long thing at all.
You don't get the time to think about it, which is what makes it all the more impressive, because you kind of sit there first like, why the hell did R-Truth like place a ladder there? And it still doesn't like make total sense like why he was initially kind of going for that.
Yeah, because he was in the ring alone when he did that.
Yeah, but like it just one right after the other, all these different innovative ways of just using that ladder in that one position. It's so impressive to watch. Because who knows how much of this is pre-choreographed versus how much of it is kind of improv on the fly. But no matter what, these are 8 dudes in a ring kind of having to work in cooperation with each other and being constant communication, especially with all of these like giant ass weapons in play, being constant communication of what they're setting up next and how they're each going to play off it. And the fact that they can like kind of, probably improv a little around it and trust each other to do so. And just it's every layer to the way the ladder match format was utilized here was brilliant, because again, everything that gets set up a certain way then pays off. There's a certain precariousness to every single time somebody tries to set a plan in motion, because one other person could jump in there and with just the right move completely send everything toppling over, sometimes literally.
Yeah, like a classic maneuver in a ladder match is, especially in these big ones where there's like 10 guys in there, is just, what if you just push a ladder over that other people are on, and then they got to take like a pratfall?
And the fragility of that is it keeps this amazing tension throughout the match as everything just continues to build, because it does a great job showing off early on, like, if somebody has a plan, it's going to get fucked up by somebody else.
There's just too many people.
Exactly. And people slowly start to get eliminated, sure. But there are so many variables at play that they do a good job demonstrating early on, like, why you can't just like manage to get everybody out, set up a ladder in the middle, and then climb up, because something's gonna go wrong. It's like Murphy's Law, the match. And so that early setup creates this great running tension. So that's kind of like the first major thematic thread of analyzing this. The second is just the amazing aesthetic that went along with everything. I mean, of course, the climactic, or not the climactic, but like the peak tableau of this whole match was this great moment where like 5 or 6 different ladders all got set up in the middle, and pretty much everybody except I think like the Miz was climbed up top, and we're all,
because the Miz was out with an injury. That's one of the stories of the match, so he wasn't there at the time. The other 7 guys are all climbing the ladder at the same time, and they're all reaching for the briefcase at the same time.
And I'm sure you could freeze frame it for this great moment where every single one has their arm up and they're all looking up. And it just looks like it's gorgeous. Like I said, it's a tableau. It's WWE's version of Norman Rockwell in a way. The quintessential picture of the pinnacle of what this sport can look like at its absolute wildest.
Mm-hmm. I feel like the kind of the bigger to kind of bracket people out into like their roles of the match is I want to start with probably the 4 people who I think have the least significant role in any real way, and that would be, I think, Evan Bourne, Jack Swagger, Alex Riley, and R-Truth.
I guess so, yeah.
Like, especially the 3 that aren't Evan Bourne, in that Evan Bourne fills the niche that kind of every ladder match needs, in that being the daredevilist dude.
But like, honestly, I didn't even get that from Bourne. I got that more from like Kofi and Mysterio than I did from Evan.
Kofi, I think, does more consistently high fly stuff, which is kind of undermines Bourne. But I think Bourne does probably like the most redonkulous looking visual of the match when he does the shooting star press off the top of the ladder onto everybody else.
Okay, that is true. That was a good moment. That was really cool.
Which me and David had a funny little thing there. This is okay. Is okay. One of the worst things about I am very forgiving. I'm going to preface. I'm very forgiving of like this thing in wrestling, and some people aren't. Is that pretty blatantly when guys are going to dive to the outside? Generally, it's not very well masked that everybody is going to stand there to catch them. And I'm very forgiving about it, especially because it's a safety thing, if nothing else.
Yeah.
And I think the visual's cool enough for it to not matter. But literally, they do like 4 dives consecutively in this manner. Of Jack Swagger and The Miz have to like fall down, get up, get dived on again,
Yeah.
get up. And like I was making a joke like of them being like, ha, but they're not going to dive on us a second time. They're not going to dive on us
a third time. Oh, I'm sure they're not going to dive on us a 4th time.
Yeah, no. It was a fun progression moment too, in that like Alex Riley is being a bigger dude who's not really big into athletics. His doesn't look quite as pretty, so he goes first, and then like Mysterio and Kofi do it, and they're graceful in the air, and then Evan Bourne shows up to be like, fuck it, we're going. I'm jumping off the ladder into a shooting star press.
Yeah. Just like crashing straight down into them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I will give it that. Is for as obvious as the setup was, pretty cool visual. What was that great like, as you call it, like in stereo takedown? It was like, was R-Truth was one of them? I'm pretty sure. Was it R-Truth?
No, I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was either Rey Mysterio and Kofi or Rey Mysterio and Evan Bourne. Of where I forget who they were. I think Jack Swagger was one of the guys climbing the ladder, but him and one other person were climbing the ladder, and then Rey Mysterio and either Kofi or Evan, they both do a Hurricane Rana at the same time to knock both of them off, the other guys off the ladder at the exact same time.
And so it's this great visual of like these two simultaneous, like basically load bearing backflips, to like whip the other people onto the ground. It was a sensational. That was a sensational image.
Now perfectly timed.
Yeah. Oh my god. Again, the choreography plus the communication plus the improv that this all must take is simply astounding to me. Like matches like this, especially when a match like this is done this well, it's simply exemplary, and I think a fantastic argument for the WWE and like professional wrestling as a whole as it exists like this. As this amazingly distinct art form. It's like sports art, athletics art in a way, of how can we utilize like these talents of like brute strength and acrobatics to create something that is simultaneously deeply violent, but not to get too hyperbolic, but like astoundingly and sometimes movingly beautiful in the physicalities they create.
Yeah, wrestling as an art form is wild, man.
Yeah. Oh god, when it's good, it's so good.
Indeed, it is. As I was saying, back to the storyline, story beat,
please.
I feel like Riley and Swagger and R-Truth all kind of fit in this. R-Truth a little less so, but Swagger and Riley kind of fit in both as this kind of like another like essential piece to a ladder match puzzle of like a bigger dude who's there to kind of just be a big guy, not necessarily do all the flipsy stuff, but is there to be like the powerhouse among smaller dudes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fine, but I also think that because Del Rio is such a major part of the match and he himself kind of fits that they aren't as significant.
Yeah. And as I pointed out to you while we were watching, it also doesn't help that from a distance, Miz and Alex Riley are nearly like indistinguishable. And Jack Swagger, if he weren't bleach blonde, would also be pretty indistinguishable from the two of them. So their issues, it feels like these three like and Evan Bourne in there too.
Yeah.
So it feels like these kind of like generic Xerox of each other white dudes that are just kind of like there.
Like Alex Riley, I can't think of like a suit. Like I can think of like a super cool, memorable thing everybody did in this match except Alex
Riley. Yeah, what a shock. the way you've been ragging on him, I'm not remotely
I
surprised.
mean, at least Jack Swagger had the cool moment where like Kofi Kingston's trying to climb the ladder and he literally just ankle locks him until Kofi falls off.
Yeah, or wasn't there another great moment with like Swagger and Kofi? It was either Swagger and Kofi or like Swagger and R-Truth or something. But like, there was a ladder like wedged in between two.
Oh yeah, okay.
And they used
yeah,
like this stuck up seesaw thing.
Swagger's like trying to like get a ladder in the ring, and then R-Truth runs up the ladder. First runs up the ladder, and then he gets in the ring, and like Swagger's still trying to push the ladder in, and so R-Truth kind of like uses it as a seesaw and knocks Swagger in the jaw.
Yeah. Oh god, that was a great moment too. I loved that. Again, that great setup and payoff of you can already tell like this is precarious. You already know you already know this is gonna go wrong. The question now remains, how are they gonna do it? And it's so satisfying to watch moments like that because they could throw anything out, and whatever they throw out, is gonna be really impressive to see.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, and then R-Truth has quite a few cool moments in this match, even if he otherwise doesn't always feel super important in it. That's a lot of cool moments.
That helps him stand out. Is that like even though he's kind of ultimately unimportant in the grand scheme of things, and he doesn't have like all these super standout moments, he's unique enough in how he presents and his physicality and everything, that you can't help but kind of remember him. But my one gripe is like, man, I wish they would have cracked more jokes about his fear of heights like throughout the match. Like I wish they leaned into that more. That would have been so funny, especially because they like the lead up to this. They focused a lot on that, and he was like, you're exacerbating my acrophobia or whatever. How could you do this to me? This is bigotry or whatever. That was really funny, and I wish they'd lean more into that.
Yeah, if an idea they could have done is like, so early in the match, there's a lot of like these mini ladders that get thrown around, and they exist.
And he literally grabs one, like his first weapon he grabs is he grabs one.
They exist because like they work as a weapon, and they help for the early visual gag of everyone having a ladder as a weapon. Mm-hmm. So it would have been funny if like R-Truth tried to set up one of the smallest ladders in the ring and tried to climb it and see if
I thought they were going to do that. It would have been an obvious gag, but it would have been funny nonetheless. But yeah, he's kind of unique enough that it helps to like have him stand out. I mean, Kofi's phenomenal. I love his high flying shit. He's so talented. He makes what he does feel so effortless. But honestly, I think Mysterio was the real MVP of this match.
Yes, I kind of in my like taking us through how everyone.
Oh, sorry. I will let you get back to your breakdown.
No, I would say that like Kofi and Rey Mysterio kind of fit, are definitely like the top baby faces here, and Kofi Kingston gets a lot of the really cool athleticism stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god.
One of my favorites is definitely when he literally leapfrogs over Jack Swagger to start climbing the ladder.
Yup. Oh, that was so cool.
But Kofi's doing this kind of crazy shit the entire match, and he comes so close to winning.
He does. Oh god, that made me so sad. No. Kofi, I was so excited for Kofi to get that dub, but no, he got knocked down too.
No, and then Rey Mysterio is there. He is the plucky underdog babyface that he always is. He is once again in this role. He's the one who has the most like, this could be it. Is he gonna win moments of everyone in the match?
He also like knocked down the most people, I think. Easily like took down the most people. He's just so fast. He gets in and gets out so quick, and he's so agile and
he was the last one out.
He was god. And the funny thing about Mysterio too is he's kind of this funny parallel to John Cena of like the underdog who's actually the best, except with Mysterio he actually is the underdog because he's not obviously WWE champion or anything. He doesn't get nearly as many wins as Cena does, despite like being actually kind of the best. So he's this great like satisfying guy to watch because everything he does just feels so flawless, and there's just this great affable quality about him, even though like he's masked. He's a masked luchador, and so it's kind of like harder to straight up identify with him. there's this great affability to him that just that kind of compels you to root for him, even
It's
if you're
always
like no investment in his story whatsoever.
it's always so cool to me how like how good luchadors are at expressing themselves despite literally wearing masks.
Well, because it's their physicalities. They don't need to rely on their faces. Each one of them moves in such a unique way. Like Mysterio sets himself apart in every single match just because the ways in which he moves himself look so different from everybody else around him.
That's true. And like yeah, it is he is incredible. And he had a fantastic show. I almost wish he won this match.
I wish he had won this match, and he got so close, and it felt like such a tease to have it like yanked away at the last second.
No, we got to see probably one of the worst aspects of a Money in the Bank match, and I forgive it because there's no other way to do it. Is that like you get these moments where guys kind of look dumb for not being able to pull the briefcase down.
I mean, okay,
because they're having to stall and wait for the other guy to come to stop them.
I will say, in Mysterio's case, it kind of works because he's short, so you can be like, the short guy was having trouble reaching. Like it for this one, it's forgivable enough because, like, yeah, sure, Mysterio and kayfabe is having trouble reaching. Why not? Go for it.
I was just gonna go ahead and move on to like talking about the Miz, who's kind of like the secondary and almost the second most important heel, I think, in this match.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not even there for half of it.
The Miz.
Yeah, because the Miz they run a classic angle of like guy gets hurt in the middle of a big multi-person match and comes back in the end. And funny enough, that's something they do a lot with like baby faces to give them a triumphant return to iffy depend. It depends. It's one of those things that can really backfire because like yes, they're coming back from an injury, but also we kind of know that like it's not. Also, they got to like not wrestle for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they come back, and then they're gonna come back and be like, "All right, I'm in." It's like, well, now you're the most refreshed. But it definitely works for like a conniving heel like the Miz to be like take advantage of this opportunity where he's kind of hurt, but also he hasn't been wrestling for 10 minutes.
And I think it fits perfectly well. I think it fits perfectly well into a format like this too, where it's all part of the sense of chaos that pervades this entire match. Where the Miz, as far as we're concerned, is counted out. He does not exist anymore. So everything's kind of like proceeding according to plan, according to somebody's getting up top and it looks like they could secure it, and then all of a sudden, like, whoops, hey, you forgot about this variable. Well, it's back to screw up somebody else's plan again. It adds to the utter precariousness of everything going on in this match, of even when we think one harmful variable is eliminated, it comes swinging right back, catching us all off guard, including, who did he knock down? Was that Kofi?
I think Kofi.
Yeah, it was Kofi. That was when he pulled him down.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Kofi was the one on the ladder when the Miz came back.
Yeah, and again, this great face that you're rooting for, this exceptionally talented face who's put on a great show, who you kind of want to win the match, and they once again blindside you in this really great way. It's a much longer setup and payoff, but if you're kind of paying attention to the themes of this match, it only makes perfect sense that the Miz comes running back to pull this shit.
Yep, and then kind of we've reached the winner, Alberto Del Rio, which,
god damn it,
part of me wants to be like a snarky, like nitpicky asshole about it, in the sense that like Del Rio spends a significant portion of the match not doing anything because everybody else took him out already.
Yeah. And
then he comes roaring back. But
the Miz 2.0.
But I also acknowledge that that's almost kind of the point, in that like the match, it feels like he kind of won when he didn't deserve to.
Yeah, I mean that's probably on purpose, but God is it, and if that's the case, it is an effective sucker punch.
It worked.
It does because
Especially when he won,
Mysterio.
because he won it by ripping Rey Mysterio's mask off.
Oh my God, this is the peak of Del Rio's heeldom. I've had this really interesting journey with Del Rio's morality as a character, because I've seen him as both a face and a heel. And even when he was a face, when I saw him as a face, the freaking Santa thing happened. Where he was effectively a heel for the episode anyway, albeit a hapless heel who just kind of wanted to not get the shit kicked out of him by John Cena.
He's really sorry about
murdering
literally
Santa.
like running over Santa, guys.
Yeah, but like, God, but no matter when he's playing in that vein, no matter if he's playing the heel or the face, he kind of has this hapless nature about him, where it feels like he stumbles into a lot of the shit that he gets himself into, just kind of by accident. He's this big, oafish man-child who's super rich and buff enough to be in this club, and he just kind of like faffs around in it until he gets in a fight and wins something. So this kind of like bumbling whatever to him is this great, kind of face value trait to him that you kind of get wrapped up in, which then makes it all the more holy shit when he pulls something so dishonorable and so cheap and twisted as unmasking a luchador.
With the gravest sin in Mexican wrestling, and they're both veterans of Mexico. They would know that.
Yeah, he more than anyone in that ring knows what he's doing when he pulls off Mysterio's mask. And Mysterio does a great job of selling it. He immediately like hides his face and just topples over this fucking mountain of ladder.
He's basically done.
Like that counts him out completely. He is disgraced. And so this Del Rio pulling this extremely underhanded move, you're kind of like, oh shit, there is a little more to this, like this wild man-child than just kind of being a buffoon with money and muscles.
Mm-hmm. And so he is Mr. Money in the Bank, and that amazingly comes up later in the show.
Again, great job in this episode of planning and payoff on a whole. But yeah, it creates this very effective sucker punch to see him win, and I was so mad. I was so mad when I realized the tables were turning in his favor, dude. So it got an effective emotional response out of me. Good job.
I feel like I did a good job of not telegraphing that I already knew how this all ends.
I was really like, I kind of at the beginning was like, who would make sense to win this match? And I saw everybody gang up on Del Rio at first, and I'm like, there was this tiny voice in the back of my head going, oh god, this means he's gonna win, isn't it? but I kind of pushed it aside because I'm like, nah, that's dumb. But then I watched everybody else go for it, and I'm like, anybody else winning this match feels just a mite too random. And I don't know how they're gonna, kind of justify the winner thematically. And seeing Mysterio get it, at that point I was like, I don't fucking care. He's the MVP of the match. He deserves the dub. And then Del Rio comes back, and it all makes sense. And again, for as upset as it made me to see him win, that's good writing. Yep. Oh, God.
Speaking of good writing, let's go to the main.
We have arrived, my friends, to perhaps one of the greatest things we've ever covered on this podcast so far.
I would absolutely agree with that, but let's start with the build-up to it, because throughout first of all, the opening video package is pretty much exclusively about CM Punk and John Cena, which also that had my favorite. I admit I kind of dug this video effect a lot. Is that they use the first video package uses the motif of when Punk said when the clock strikes midnight he will no longer be work for WWE, and they do a thing where like they have they use like color and black and white to show the moving hands of a clock, where it starts in full color and then it clockwise becomes black and white.
Oh god, it was such a good effect.
Mm-hmm.
And the second video package, which just like details every like great moment of this saga so far. I mean, what was brilliant about it is it stayed so thematically true to Punk's propensity for words. Because not only is it showing off every great and powerful speech he gave every time he manipulated someone into having the exact reaction he wanted them to and giving him exactly what his twisted little ass wants, but it also has this great effect where every main character in the saga that gets brought up in the video package has words like labeled over them, like flashed over footage of them. Like McMahon gets labeled as a tyrant and an autocrat and a dictator, and Cena gets labeled as a stooge and a kiss ass and a loser or something like that. It's this great thematic tie-in to, again, in anybody else's hands, this is a microphone. In my hands, this is a pipe bomb. The way in which they play up Punk's love of using his words to destroy is simply brilliant.
Mm-hmm. And then throughout the night, we kind of get like these little updates of what's going on, and it basically amounts to, despite Vince McMahon's best efforts, according to him anyway, CM Punk has not signed, and they made that clear. Is that like Punk's not signed? We're done. If Punk wins, he's going to be champion without being under contract.
And of course, McMahon, like Pontius Pilate, washes his hands of it, like, This isn't on me. I did everything I could. This is on Cena. It was because of Cena that we're doing it like this. I wash my hands of that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which is just a great extra villain moment of him, of just him refusing to take any responsibility for his own actions. Which, for as much as he was like over the top tormented by Punk, like he's still, at the end of the day,
still the bad guy,
super in the wrong. And the fact that he's willing to sell out his top star for this just because he's been put in this compromised, embarrassing position that he just personally feels uncomfortable being in. The character work here is off the charts. Everything about this is just like the next evolution up from where we were during aggressive contract negotiations. We see how these three men have all clashed together and how their worst, most toxic aspects have all come out to poison each other, and this is the payoff, and we're just kind of approaching the inevitable of it all falling apart.
And then we get to the match itself, and Punk comes out first.
Oh yeah, and
the crowd is so into it.
They're losing their minds. And what I just realized when we were talking about this, the ultimate irony of this match, as far as I remember, Punk does not get on a mic once. He doesn't need
He doesn't. To. He doesn't talk at all.
He doesn't say a single word during this match. The ultimate irony is that he just sits there and he takes it all in. He's home. He's surrounded by family and friends and millions of people who worship him. He's done all he needs to. Now it's time to walk the walk after talking the talk. It's such a cool juxtaposition from what we've seen from him so far, and yet does not, for the entirety of that match, diminish his character one bit. And we'll get into that more in a bit, because I think you and I might have a very similar thing we want to talk about thematically, but we'll wait on that as we kind of cover the Cena portion.
Yeah, and so Cena comes out, and I think this is as good a time as any to kind of bring in what kind of what I made an interesting observation of during the match, at least in my mind, is that when Cena comes out, this is the most sullen I've ever seen John Cena. Like he just isn't. He doesn't do any of his normal like playing to the crowd shtick. He doesn't talk to the camera as he runs down to the ring. He didn't even run down to the ring.
He
in his goofy running style. He just
Yeah.
walks like he just puts his head down, and when he lifts the belt, and he still throws his shirt to like the one Cena fan he finds in the front row. But other than that, he is very subdued.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, and I feel like this match is a really good example of a rarity from John Cena, and that I think is that like he plays the heel in this match in a way he usually doesn't. Because that's not his job. But on this night, yes, it is.
Oh my God, that's really interesting on a whole, because you then have to ask the question: is he doing that on purpose, kind of for Punk,
Mm-hmm.
or is he just accepting his own role because he knows he's in hostile territory and he has to just kind of go in, play it straight, and fight the fight, um, despite all the harm that's about to happen.
I would guess in kayfabe, it is absolutely. I would argue it's Cena has accepted the role that he has to play tonight.
Yeah. And
that
what's
he understands that he's, and especially because you have the announcers spending so much time in the match talking about how like no one in Chicago is cheering for John Cena.
Yeah.
How Jerry Lawler, I think, says it explicitly that even on his worst night, it's 50-50 on John Cena. And tonight, he has no friends in this crowd. And I think that all ties into the story of like Cena accepting the role that he has to play. That tonight he is the heel.
Yeah. It's kind of this great moment. It's kind of this great thing when you think about it, of how much of this is Cena going mask off in a way, and how much of this is like, at least in his mind, the sacrifice, the morally ambiguous sacrifice of the guy who at the end of the day is still ultimately like the good guy. Like how much of it is like Cena unveiling some like darker hidden nature, and how much of it is this kind of like fucked up, almost like persecution complex.
And I don't think because wrestling doesn't, I can't say we'll ever know. I don't think.
But I think that makes it fascinating. You can kind of read into it what you want.
Yeah, you can read into it either way.
Yeah, and either way it works, and I think either way is correct, kind of just based on how you view Cena, which I really like. That kind of sullenness, when he knows he doesn't have the crowd on his side. There is something that's like ominous about it in this way that's kind of hard to exactly pinpoint, but know something's wrong.
Yeah. And what made me notice during the match that Cena is clearly the heel here is kind of thinking about it in like very basic match building block tropes. Of like, generally speaking, matches are structured in much the same way as you could argue a 3-act structure fits most movies, for example. Many wrestling matches have a similar kind of structural take to it of it is a match dominated by a heel controlling the match for most of the time until and then the babyface getting spurts of a comeback, of hope spots, until we reach the inevitable conclusion, whether it be the good guy making the successful comeback and winning, or the heel stomping it out one last time and they win.
Yeah.
John Cena, I felt, controlled a significant portion of this match, and CM Punk was the one in the underdog role of the one that the crowd needed to rally behind to make the comeback, when that is normally Cena's job, to be the one underfoot and is the one who comes back.
I half agree with that, because I made a similar observation about the power dynamic in this match in particular, but I came out with a bit of a different conclusion. I agree that Cena was physically overpowering for a lot of this match, But there was something kind of extra I read into it of the entire time. Um, Even when Punk was being underhanded or was being kind of crushed underfoot by Cena, um, you had this sense that he, due to being so much in his element, feeling so righteously justified in what he was doing, um, having a veritable cult there to worship him, he the entire time never quite felt like he was out of control of the match. And on top of that,
Mhm.
there was something I noticed too about the fighting itself, and that Cena was very Cena about how he fought. He was straightforward. He pulled off all his signature moves a whole bunch of times, just trying to force Punk to submission. The way Cena does, especially like a frustrated, sullen Cena who
Mhm.
ultimately like kind of hates the implication of whatever's going on here. Punk felt a little bit different than how he usually tends to fight. He I mean, he's never been one for like that sort of same penchant for brute strength that Cena has. But he pulled all of these like really tricky moves, these really interesting reversals. Um, he kind of took things and flipped them on its head. And it almost read to me as this thematic acknowledgement of Cena is ultimately towing the company line here. He's doing
Mhm.
things the way they're supposed to be done, yada yada yada, playing lapdog for
Yeah.
Vince. But Punk doesn't do that. Punk this entire time has been playing by his own rules, and this match is a very physical culmination of that. And it kind of makes it a foregone conclusion once you notice that oh shit, Punk's gonna come out of this victorious because he's the one person who isn't trapped in by the company mindset, and that allows him to think outside the box, that allows
Mhm.
him to get the upper hand, and that kind of indicates that the entire time, even when he's slightly submissive to Cena, he's in control of the situation in his own head, um, just like he has been from the very beginning.
I would agree with that completely, and I do also agree with this. I agree with this idea with the idea of like he never felt quite out of it,
Hmm.
even when he was being on the defensive. And then I think you get that in a way of like, and you look at like how many times John Cena put him in the STF is a lot. He got out of it like two times, and the third time we'll get to that when we talk about how this thing ends.
Yeah.
And then he kicks out of two attitude adjustments, which at the time is insane.
Yeah.
Um, that that is a move that John Cena that has been devalued a little bit in terms of power strength, in terms of like power levels and how much of a kill shot it is
Hmm.
as time has gone on. But definitely for 2011, kicking out of not even one but two of them is nuts,
Oh God.
and it adds to this energy of that makes Punk feel inevitable what's going to happen here. That Punk is going to pull this off.
Yeah. It's brilliant
Mm.
thematic writing and thematic physical execution. And again, I can you can never tell with the writers room, right? How much of that deeper layer is kind of meant to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Um and part of that is to and another kind of layer to that is you can put a lot of that simply on Punk's performance. Punk is at his most consummate here. Like every moment his character felt so real. That kind of constant Joker smile he has when he's winning, um, and that insane, wild, desperate look in his eyes when he's losing and knows he can break out of it. He just needs to reach to the rope, or he just needs to break out of this. And um, a lot of that comes from what a great performer he is. Again, extra impressively without using a single word to express himself here on the mic. Um, but I th- I want to believe that some of this some of this layering was intentional, that they went into this kind of with these things in mind of
Mm-hmm.
we're in Chicago, um and Cena is in a very tough spot. And Punk has been absolutely dominating all of this. How can we make the physicality of this match reflect that? I want to believe that some of that was intentional from the get-go, because it's just too cool for that to be, accidental, as it were.
I do too, and I do believe some of it is, especially because I think that's kind of a story that you see on commentary. I think commentary is kind of a window into what the story's supposed to be, and I think we do get elements of that in the way that Michael Cole, Jerry Lawler, and Booker T call this match.
Oh my god, absolutely! I mean, they were fantastic at announcing pretty much the entire time. But all three of them were really invested. And again, I don't do a great job during matches of really picking up on what commentary is saying. But for this one, I was able to kind of appreciate that each one of them had some really valuable insight to offer as to kind of what was going on, both physically in ring and kind of inside the head of each participant.
And also, I think that, the very unique dynamics here of CM Punk being a heel in terms of the most basic, in terms of like the broad strokes, storytelling, but being a babyface on this night kind of creates interesting dynamics in how like Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler treat him. That is because Jerry Lawler is pretty clearly a babyface at this point, but Michael Cole is also very blatantly a heel, and he's kind of obnoxious as a heel. But now, like, he's both a heel and a company man, which means he doesn't really like either man here.
Yeah, I know.
He inevitably takes the point of, well, at least John Cena's not going to leave with the title.
Yeah. And Booker T felt pretty explicitly faced too.
But I think it was very fun to see. I think commentary did a really good job on this match.
Oh my god, yeah. This match was near perfection. Like my only complaint, like maybe there were one too many fake out kickouts, whatever. And I have like one slight gripe with the very end of the match, but overall, like, oh my god.
Let's go to the end. So, kind of what happened is CM Punk finally hits John Cena with a go to sleep. Commentary kind of undersells it by like acknowledging that CM Punk didn't quite hit it correctly, and it hit John Cena more in the chest than it did in the head. But it is supposed to be he hit the move.
But also keep in mind, this is like right after too. Punk was like half unconscious as Cena set him up to sit up, sit up at one of the corners of the ring for him to set up a move. And Punk, like, once Cena started kind of really finagling with him, Punk woke up and just went hog wild on this man. After so many attempted chokeouts from Cena and everything, like Punk just got this glorious, miraculous second wind that just kind of lit that extra fire that you could tell he was going to use to win the match.
So Punk hits Cena with the go to sleep, his big move, but Cena is able to roll out of the ring. And by this point, and so at this point in the match, what happens is now Vince McMahon shows up.
Yeah,
with John Laurinaitis in tow, and it's kind of funny that I'd almost think it was intentional that early in the match, Michael Cole brings up the Montreal Screwjob in relation to this event, and you can argue you can go back and forth on whether it's totally appropriate to talk about a real life incident like that and weave it into your fake storyline, but it works. But it does work for the story.
Honestly,
we take that element out of it, and it sets up what happens in the fun. It's a setup to the payoff of the end of this match, where
I didn't even catch that.
Where Vince McMahon literally is going to try to do another screw job. He's signaling to the ref to end what happens is that he causes enough of a distraction that John Cena gets Punk in the STF again. And Vince McMahon is like barking orders at Laurinaitis and trying to tell the ref to ring the bell and end the match right there.
Yeah.
And Cena notices this happening. I don't, and he actually stops and goes and outside and decks Laurinaitis. Because Cena is like, no, I'm not winning like this. Like, I'm not going to win in some political power play bullshit. I'm going to win because I won myself.
And I think this becomes the most fascinating moment of the match. Because we have this thing where, you know, they're harkening back to the screw job, and Vince, you know, they're trying to show that Vince is doing another one. And then Cena is, of course, again, Cena about it and is like, no, I want to win this my way, which is a very interesting angle to take your like kind of default heel for this match. That he still wants to do it honorably,
which costs him. And I think that's kind of I think that's something very interesting, is that arguably Vince McMahon and John Cena were the architects of their own demise of this situation. Because if Vince McMahon doesn't decide to like take matters into his own hands and try to screw Punk out of it himself, like you can assume that Punk probably taps out, because this was one STF too many. Like, if we treat this in a kayfabe mindset. At the same time, John Cena deciding to be honorable and say, I'm not going to win by cheating, lets Punk have enough of an opportunity to recover and hit and surprise Cena with a go to sleep and win the match.
Okay. So go to sleep is kind of like Punk's power move then.
It is.
Okay, so that kind of eliminates my gripe, because my one final gripe was Cena pops back into the ring after telling Vince to fuck off. And then Punk immediately hits him with go to sleep. And Cena without resistance loses the tap out, or loses the count out.
Yeah. That's his like go-to finishing maneuver, okay. and is literally supposed to be like a knee to the face.
Okay, so it felt kind of random, but I guess like knowing that, okay, that doesn't gripe gone then. But yeah, it's really this really interesting moment of like, dang, who's right here? Because as we talked about the last Summer Punk episode, all three of them kind of suck in their own way. There is no true good guy here. You know, Punk is in a way the most objectively justified, because he's been legitimately treated like crap, and he's actually trying to like call the company out and yada yada yada. But he's such a maniacal, power hungry prick about it that he takes it way too far for you to like properly sympathize with him. Now again, in meta or whatever, of course we're all rooting for him, because he's just like he's the freshest thing that's happened to any storyline recently, and it's just so exciting to watch him go off like this. And Cena and McMahon are similarly toxic, but without a single iota of that charisma to back it up that Punk is just so infused with. So of course you're like ending up rooting for Punk or whatever. But you know, we have McMahon trying to play it dirty, and he screws himself. We have Cena trying to play it clean, and he screws himself, ultimately because at the end of the day, he's still playing lapdog for Vince, and it's showing like even in your version of clean, you're still doing like this weird like faux virtuous dirty work, because we gotta take away any of Punk's righteous credibility, but the honorable way. And then we have Punk pulling the ultimate villain move of he wins and he's leaving with that title, and he's fucked over Cena, and he's fucked over McMahon, he's fucked over the whole company. And there was no good ending to this, and we got the best bad ending of them all, because now, holy shit, what do we do now?
And Vince had one more try, in that after Punk won the belt, he tries to get Del Rio down to the ring to cash in.
Oh, yup.
And LOL, Del Rio gets in the ring and immediately gets kicked in the head.
Yeah, before the bell gets rung, and oh yes.
And then Punk's like, all right, I'm out. And he
Yeah,
runs off in the amazing visual of him running off into the crowd. First, he turns around at the barricade and blows Vince a kiss goodbye. And the pay-per-view ends with Punk walking up the aisles amidst the crowd with the title belt in tow. Full well with the knowledge that he is gone.
And in the vein of setups and payoffs that we've been talking about this whole time, we get the visual to accompany the claim that started it all, that Punk is the voice of the people, and there he stands amidst his people, his home tribe, lauding him as their god as he stands victorious over the company that's oppressed him for far too long. His maniacal, twisted, awful, amazing plan having come to perfect success. Oh God, is it brilliant?
It is. Money in the Bank is 2011 is a fantastic show.
This is one of the best things. This is one of the best episodes we've watched so far. This was simply exceptional.
Mm-hmm. And the other two matches are that we did not watch are also fantastic.
That's so cool.
Watch the whole show is that like you watch the whole thing is just as good.
Yeah, no,
all good stuff.
This was an exemplary episode, and everything. This is everything I crave when I watch this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This is what this is like, oh my God. Again, this takes me back to the AEW episode where I'm marveling in the thematic brilliance of what's been presented to me. Again, to deeply gratify Austin once again, having followed this storyline kind of all the way through up to this point and seeing the seeds that were laid and how, even when, and again, even all the setup episodes were some of the smartest writing that we've watched on a whole for this series so far. But like, even like the silliest of that like kind of smart writing has some sort of like payoff or wraps into the whole like kind of thematic package. It's so intensely cool to have followed this from the pipe bomb promo up till now, because it feels like such a culmination of everything we've been so tuned into in this era. Mm-hmm. And how gloriously it was executed, how well done it was. I couldn't have asked for a better conclusion to this story than this moment. Oh God.
Absolutely. And this is the absolute peak of this storyline. It's right here. This night.
This feels like the absolute this feels like out of like storyline climaxes, again, of which I've watched next to none. But just from what I know about this world, this media world as a whole, this feels like one of the best of the best. Just you can tell how beautifully done everything was. This is not the kind of storyline that comes along every day or every year or whatever time period in which across which storylines take place. This was lightning in a bottle, which is perfect imagery considering the Punk logo.
Oh yeah, Punk's logo.
It was that fist holding onto the lightning bolt.
Yep.
What a perfect encapsulation of what this moment is.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Oh my God.
And next time we get to do like what is the opposite of Money in the Bank 2011?
I was having such a good time. Why?
I know.
Why?
I take the roller coaster around here, David. As we return to the new generation.
Please spare me. Please, audience, I'm being tortured. Somebody please come save me. I'm trapped in this little digital box here. Austin cast some sort of spell on me. I can't escape. I am made to suffer. Somebody please, I'm begging you.
Don't worry, we're not gonna Don't worry, after this is over, we're not gonna do any intentionally bad stories for a while.
Yay!
But yes, Next time, again, normally this is where I'd plug what's gonna happen, but I'm still being coy and mysterious about why I picked the new generation era. To my detriment, I think, because because I'm realizing in real time how bad this storyline was, even worse than I thought it was. And David, and I can't even tell David what it is we're talking about.
Hey, Austin, you reap what you sow, bitch.
It is me reaping. Oh, fuck yeah, fuck me sewing. Oh, what the fuck?
Oh, God. Oh, I hate everything. Okay. Dear Lord. All
I did
right.
that backwards, but whatever.
Yeah, I got the gist. Yeah, yes, sir. All right. So, my friends, oh my dear friends, thank you for once again joining us on this most bizarre of sports art entertainment madness. We are so happy to have you listening. If this is your first time with us, welcome. We are so gratified to have you. If you're a returning listener, thank you for joining us once again. We hope whether you're new or returning, you continue to stick around to check out our further adventures into wrestling analysis. If you do not yet follow us and would like to do so, you can subscribe to us on YouTube, the Noobs and Knockouts podcast. You can follow us on Spotify. You can follow us on Apple, and you can follow us on Google. 3 of the best places to get podcasts. Please, leave us likes, leave us comments, leave us ratings and reviews. Let us know what you think of the show. We love that engagement. It feeds our souls. And our viewership and everything, that's kind of nice too. And we just generally like to hear from the people who listen to us, what you think of what's going on. If you'd like to reach out to us on socials, you can find us on Twitter at Noobs and Knox Pod. That's Noobs, the letter N, Knox Pod. You can find us on Gmail. You can email us at noobsandknockoutspod@gmail.com. Write us. Let us know what you think of the show. Give us suggestions. Just throw some kind words our way. Whatever you want to do. You can follow us on Patreon, the Noobs and Knockouts podcast on Patreon. Join our $1 tier to get early access to episodes every week and get a shout out in the end of each episode.
Absolutely. See you guys next time.
Hasta luego.